spreads, companies going to get a much more global footprint. You're very well internationally traveled. You've done a lot of business outside of the United States. This also adds another level of risk to what we're talking about as companies grow. I personally believe if you're going to go and hire a CISO, you need to hire a CCO at the same time if you're going to go globally. It makes zero sense to not do that, especially being at a 3.5 million deficit on a cybersecurity level. What advice would you give to companies wanting to do that, wanting to really spread their wings and go anywhere out of the United States?
Yeah, that's a great question. For the simple reason that firms are going global right now. There's much more to their domestic marketplaces than there is, and so there's bigger bags to be had internationally. When you go ahead internationally, for example, we had a client, a major financial institution client with billions under management. We had set them up in several countries in Asia. And what we have discovered was, for example, in countries like Taiwan, South Korea, Japan, very, very nuanced technology, data protection, data privacy, and cybersecurity requirements, particularly in the financial institution space. When I say nuanced, I'm talking about the letter of the law. I'm talking about very specific prescriptive rules and regulations that allow for very little discretion. So what that means is that when you're going into these jurisdictions, you want to make absolutely sure that you have the proper resources, you got the proper compliance programs in place, you fully understand the universe of risks that are involved, everything from low, medium, high, how you're documenting those risks, whether it's software or otherwise, and to the compliance point, that you have a proper compliance resource, whether it's a manager of compliance or a CCO, but someone who understands the local rules of regulations and how the manuals, for example, are going to comport with the technology requirements. Because the technology requirements cannot be separated from the regulatory compliance requirements. They almost go hand in hand. Because if you have a data protection breach, or you have a data integrity breach, or you have some of these, other types of breaches on the cybersecurity front, in Asia, for example, regulators are not shy about fining foreign companies. And I tell the story all the time of we have one of our resources in Japan. Is an excellent securities lawyer, both trained in the U.S. and Japan, incidentally, which is very rare. That tells us a story about a well-known British asset manager. They got licensed in Japan, and they ran a mock of Japanese securities rules and regulations. The Japanese regulator sent them various notices to attend a hearing. They ignored all the notices, and there were various violations, right, as an asset manager. And essentially, after about 2 years, the Japanese regulator called the UK regulator, called the FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority, and blew the whistle on them. Basically said, you have a rogue player on your hands. Well, the FCA got so peeved, they essentially took the action of revoking the license of the UK asset manager in the UK. So what that means is a very important lesson there, very instructive lesson, that regulatory arbitrage is real. The regulatory environment is very close-knit. People talk, and your behavior and compliance in one jurisdiction can affect your business licensing and registration in your home jurisdiction.